So I am joined by my colleagues Tanya Rohrbach, who is the Community Planning Manager at New Jersey Future, and Evan Garcia, who is a Community Planner at New Jersey Future. Tanya worked closely with Sustainable Jersey to create the Community Design for All Ages Action based on a community guide for age-friendly land use planning that she authored. And Evan and Tanya work with communities across the state on age-friendly planning. So now I'm going to turn it over to Evan, who will lead the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Alessia. Welcome, everyone. We're very excited you're here. So my name's Evan Garcia, and I'm a community planner at New Jersey Future. And I'll start a little bit with my background. So my background is in city planning and demographics. For over 3 years, I was a GIS analyst and a demographer with the school district planning team. And after that, I was a city planner for a municipality in North Texas. And I appreciate all of you for joining us today. I believe we're all here because we have a shared passion for advancing community design for all ages, and we really want to be a part of making positive change in our communities. So now today's workshop is about completing an age-friendly land use assessment and data gathering using census data. This is the first of 3 workshops in our series, so we hope to see you in the upcoming sessions. And we're excited to be diving into this with you all, and we're looking forward to hearing your questions at the end. So before we start, I want to give a quick overview about who we are and what we do. So New Jersey Future is a nonprofit, non-government land use planning and policy organization. We advance smart growth principles to promote healthy communities across New Jersey. And we do our work through research, policy work, advocacy, and providing technical assistance. Today, I will start by describing age-friendly communities and giving an overview of the Community Design for All Ages action. And then I will jump into specific components of the action and give a detailed explanation of how to complete them. The first is a demographic data profile. I'll demonstrate how to collect the data for the demographic evaluation tool, which is a necessary part of the documentation for the action submission of the demographic data profile component. Then I will describe the age-friendly land use assessment component, and we'll provide a walkthrough of some of the questions that are in the land use assessment checklist. And to finish the presentation, we'll have time for Q&A. Now, what is age-friendly? So the concept of age-friendly communities was started by a World Health Organization effort that aims to improve livability for aging populations across the globe. And people across the entire age spectrum need access to affordable and diverse housing options, efficient transportation, and opportunities for social engagement. But we know that these needs can be more compelling for older people. The inclination for older people to have more restricted income, mobility, and social networks means that community design can determine whether they're able to continue living in a community and whether they can remain socially engaged and physically active. Its effects can also determine if older residents are compelled to move away or are at a greater risk for social isolation as they age. So the community design for all ages action in the Sustainable Jersey program was created using the New Jersey Future Community Guide to Implementing Age-Friendly Land Use Decisions resource as a best practice. The guide and the action both provide a framework for kickstarting or advancing an age-friendly initiative. The guide provides an effective step-by-step process for anyone in a community looking to initiate aging-friendly community design implementation. And the guide walks through a community effort to conduct an age-friendly land use assessment, which evaluates the way communities are arranged in terms of spatial patterns of development, building designs, and how accessible public amenities are. And the community design for all ages action has components that correlate with the steps in the guide. So we understand that every community is different and will be at a different stage in the age-friendly process. Some towns have a well-established initiative, and others are just now finding out about age-friendly. So while this action is structured to make sure that no matter your stage in the process, there are components of the action you can work towards. There are 12 independent or individual components to the action, plus an additional component that combines several of the assessment components to develop an age-friendly implementation plan. Each of the 12 components is worth 5 points. The implementation plan altogether is 25 points. And the action is eligible for the total 25 points. So you can choose if you want to do multiple 5-point components or the bigger task of developing an implementation plan for the full 25 points. So, a main component of the action is the age-friendly land use assessment, which is listed as component number 3 in the action. By conducting the land use assessment, municipalities will evaluate physical features such as sidewalk conditions, streetscape improvements, community facilities, green spaces, and other aspects of the pedestrian environment, including access to key destinations in the community. The assessment also evaluates the town's zoning regulations, looking for regulations that promote mixed-use town centers and a diverse range of housing options. So there are questions in the assessment that will ask you to assess the municipal plans and policies that may or may not support livability. All of the questions on the worksheet are geared toward livability for all ages, and with particular emphasis on older populations. The demographic data profile, which is listed as component 4 in the action, will evaluate the demographics and vulnerabilities of the existing and projected older populations. And other main components which will be presented in the upcoming workshops of this series are an age-friendly policy, community engagement, and an implementation plan. Other components of the action you may want to consider for your town are to assign an age-friendly coordinator and embed that position within the municipality. Another is to establish a municipal committee to oversee age-friendly efforts and implementation. And these two components are geared towards establishing long-term and comprehensive age-friendly initiatives or enhancing existing ones. Components 7 through 12 are geared toward implementing age-friendly land use actions, programs, regulations, and for this action, each of these components needs to be done in the context of age-friendly community planning. Components 1 through 11 are only some of the municipal mechanisms that your community can use to increase accessibility to housing, mobility options, and better public spaces. Component 12 allows for flexibility to implement actions that were identified in a community engagement or planning process with older adults. So that's to say, we know that there are other actions that are not on this list that may be more applicable to your community, and they can earn credit in the Sustainable Jersey program as long as the submission requirements regarding age-friendly land use planning are met. So accompanying these workshops, New Jersey Future is offering technical assistance awards for Green Team municipalities to work on components of the Sustainable Jersey action. Applicants will have the option to choose one of 3 project options that complete components of the action. First being developing an age-friendly community design policy. Second, public engagement through conducting a community survey or focus groups. And third, completion of an age-friendly land use assessment. Each of these project options will also include a completed demographic data profile as well. And the application deadline for this assistance is February 9th, so please apply soon. And we'll put the application link in the chat. So to start, I'm going to talk a little bit about our current demographic trends as a state and country. So you can see by this chart on the left that we in New Jersey are aging quite fast. Our under 20 age cohort has continued to shrink over the past 20 years, while our 50 to 64 and over 65 age cohort has seen the most growth. And this is something that isn't unique to New Jersey. Across the nation, many of our states are aging quite rapidly. On the right, you can also see that the total population over 65 has risen to almost 20% in recent years. And this shift in age demographics is unprecedented in our country's history. And it deserves to be stated that today, our country is older than it's ever been. So, so what does that mean for you and your community? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. So, with that important information in mind, let's dive into the action submission worksheet. If you follow the link that Alicia just posted, it will take you to this document. This slide shows one action component that you will need to submit to receive 5 points for this component. When submitting for points in the action, you must submit this worksheet that outlines which component you completed, as well as indicating that you completed all the requirements. So as you can see on this slide, for component 4, the action submission requires uploading the completed demographic evaluation tool and also uploading the approved master plan element, amendment, or reexamination report that incorporates information from the tool. When uploading, you must also specify the page numbers of the adopted master plan amendment or reexamination report that examines and promotes the demographic evaluation. So now we'll be going over the demographic data profile, which is the fourth component in the community design for all ages action. This data profile will compile information on 7 critical pieces of information that can help inform assessments and actions related to age-friendly community design. First, the data profile will look at demographic information that will evaluate important data such as age distribution, workforce population, segregation by census tract. Second, the profile will look into economic information, including household income and poverty rate. Third is housing. You will be able to find out your town's percent of housing types, living arrangements for older adults, whether they live alone or with others, percent of renters and homeowners who are cost burdened or who pay over 30% of their income on housing. And these are just a few examples, but this section will be able to tell a lot about your town's housing situation. Fourth is transportation. How many of your residents commute to work by transit, and how are those commute patterns reflected among different age groups? And fifth is mobility. What percent of households don't have a vehicle? What percentage of residents walk, bike, carpool, or drive a personal vehicle to work? And again, how are those commute patterns reflected among different age groups? Sixth is geography. Are there food deserts in your community, and are people exposed to flood risk? And lastly is public spaces and amenities. Do all neighborhoods have access to a community facility? And are there programs and events specific to its older population? So why is this important? We need this demographic data profile to tell us a story, or provide us with a strong, diverse set of data that will be a great point of reflection. It will tell us about how has your physical environment been shaped over many years and many different plans and policies that got us here now. So, for example, we know we're in a housing crisis, and older people can have more barriers to find housing of an appropriate location, size, type, and price where they can live out their years. And most people want to age in their communities, but there isn't an appropriate housing for them to do that in most of our communities. So how do you receive points for this component? You must complete the demographic evaluation tool worksheet, and this slide includes an extract from the worksheet. You need to input the data for your municipality in the fourth column and the New Jersey in the fifth column, then interpret the information in the last column. And next, and in order to receive points for this component, you need your municipality to incorporate and adopt this information into the master plan or master plan amendment or reexamination report. Now, this could be a standalone amendment or using this data to be reflected in the demographics section of the master plan in order ultimately to better inform future decision making. So where do you get this data? Most of the data for this evaluation tool will be gathered from censusreporter.org. And now you can use the census website to find this data, but we found that the Census Reporter tool is more approachable to use and easy to navigate. So the beauty of this method is it's free of charge, the data is updated every year, and it comes with ease in a few simple steps. And another great thing is that this information isn't specific to any state. So while we're focusing on New Jersey, you can do this analysis for any community in the nation. So this is what you see when you go to the Census Reporter website, and you would start by typing in the information you're looking for into that Explore field. So the way the census dataset works, each variable comes with a designated code that you can use to search for the table. And in this case, number of housing units uses B25024. And within the census data, one of the most commonly used variables is housing units. So this is a prime example of information we need to understand in terms of your community's housing situation. So to locate this data, you need to input the respective code in the Explore window. So step one, you would input B25024, which is this data set we're looking for. Once we selected this data set, you have to select your geography. So step two would be to input your municipality. And step three is to input the state geography so we compare the two. The next page will show you your housing units. You've got one detached, one attached, and 3 to 4. Now, for the ones in the category 5 to 9 to 50 or more, you're going to need to add those up. And you can see on this slide, there's over 20.6% of 5 or more units in a building in Trenton, and reflected across the state is 21.5%. So we're going to interpret the results. The data shows that there are significantly more single-family attached dwellings in this municipality than the state average. So now we have the data that we need to better understand one aspect of your municipality's housing stock. Now, another variable that can help us understand the housing challenge is cost-burdened renters. Now, what this means is that according to Census and HUD definition, if you spend over 30% of your household income on rent, then you're considered cost burdened. So, what percentage of the residents of your community is paying over 30% on housing? Step one is the same as earlier. Input the data set you're looking for in that Explore field, in this case, B25072. And that will take you to the next page where you specify the geography. So step two, you're going to specify your municipality and hit enter. And that will immediately show you the information for your community. But of course, we need to compare that information with the states. So step three is to type in New Jersey in the Add a Geography tool on the left side of the data. So after you specified the table, selected your municipality and New Jersey as the geographies to analyze, it will output the table. And so step 4, you're going to need to add up the values for all ages over 65. And you're also going to need to add up the 30 to 34.9 value with the 35% or more to get the information for your municipality, and repeat the process for New Jersey. So step 6 is to interpret the results. What are these numbers? What's the story? What is it trying to tell us? Um, so in this case, you might find this for this particular community, there's a larger percentage of cost burden individuals in this community than the state average. So the completed demographic evaluation tool then needs to be included in an adopted master plan, and it can be included in the demographic section, or it can be adopted as an amendment to the master plan or as a part of the reexamination report. And ideally, the information learned in the evaluation will be integrated throughout the relevant elements, such as housing and circulation elements of the plan. And for the action submission, you will need to show exactly how and where it was included in an adopted master plan element, amendment, or a reexamination report. So now let's take a minute to talk about the municipal mechanism of administration and how that relates to community design. So most decisions about the specific land uses and community amenities are made by the local jurisdictions, which is the municipality. Changes to things like housing, street designs, facility improvements, and new rideshare services are all made based on municipal plans, policies, and regulations. So these include the master plan, which is the comprehensive vision for the community and the basis of zoning regulations, development and economic plans, design standards, capital improvement plans and expenditures. And now the 2020 master plan of Ridgefield Park Village provides a good example of how age-friendly planning can be incorporated into a master plan. They used the age-friendly land use planning project conducted with technical assistance from New Jersey Future as a foundation for their master plan update. And the community design for all ages action can be very helpful to inform and inspire a town's visioning and planning process. Okay, now that we have shown you how to collect data with the Census Reporter tool with a simple approach, let's move on to the land use assessment. The evaluation categories of the land use assessment are housing, mixed use center, transportation mobility, public spaces and amenities. There are also questions on administration and planning. So this land use assessment will look at the features related to land use and also the policies and regulations that are going to determine the future land use in your community. So this is what the land use assessment worksheet looks like. And again, you specify your municipality and the county, and it dives directly into some questions. So I'm going to jump into the first administration question. Are age-friendly actions incorporated into the municipal budget? Now, ways in which you can find that information would be to look at your town's budget. You could have a conversation with the administrator or others who are involved in developing the budget. The key thing here is that these budget items are a part of an age-friendly plan, policy, or process specifically tied to improving livability for older adults. And I want to make this clear, every town's different, and there will be questions on this land use assessment that you may find your town doesn't do. That's okay. Your responses here do not all have to be yes. We don't anticipate them to be. The main thing is to start a conversation about some of these questions, and while working with others in your community, come to the determination that maybe this could be something to help, or hey, we already have this program. I didn't know about it. Maybe others don't as well. So really increasing exposure on some of those categories. Okay, so evaluating a mixed-use center. Do you have a mixed-use center? Are multiple uses permitted in ways that complement and encourage business? There will be questions that will ask you to evaluate the plans, policies, and programs that may be hindering or that may be enabling success in your mixed use center or downtown core. So, one question on the assessment worksheet is whether the town has a clearly defined mixed use center with a mix of with a mix of uses, including residential units, a mix of business, retail, and service uses, all within walking distance of each other and connected to pedestrian infrastructure. So, to answer this question, you need to assess the zoning map and the municipal zoning ordinance. And the example on this slide for this community, the C1 zone is the Main Street Business District, which permits a mix of offices, retail, business, residential in the upper floors, and it also excludes types of land uses that we know do not complement a mixed use center, and those being new or used motor vehicle sales, drive in restaurants, gas stations, auto body motor vehicle repair. So while those uh, are necessary businesses, they may not be the best land uses for promoting walkable, pedestrian, bicycle friendly downtown core or Main Street business district. So for this question, if this was your municipality, you would put yes and then provide links to the zoning map and zoning districts that detail the zones of your downtown or town center. And you can find a link to your town's zoning code on the town's website, or you could look up your town at the URL on this slide. I'll give a second for folks to look at that. Okay, so to assess housing, we're asking questions about the cost of housing in the community and the community's overall housing stock. What is the condition of the housing stock? How old is the housing? How big are the lot sizes? This is assessing whether the zoning code is geared toward allowing for diverse housing types and if there are design requirements that are making sure the housing is accessible to people of all ages and all abilities. And there's another question, are there inclusionary zoning requirements that mandate a certain amount of housing as inclusionary of lower incomes? So one question in the housing category is, are accessory dwelling units a permitted use in the zoning code without an affordable housing eligibility or other stipulation? So accessory dwelling units are the smallest types of housing units in a range of middle housing types, and that can be implemented to add more housing to your community. They are designed to be compact and complement existing single family neighborhoods. And the example you see on this slide is of a community in New Jersey that does allow ADUs. And this is a copy of their zoning code. So if you were the green team for this municipality, you would select yes for this question and provide links to the zoning map and this section of the ordinance. And I highly encourage everyone to attend our third workshop, where we will have an expert on ADUs presenting more in-depth information on why they're important and also about implementing accessory dwelling units in various communities across New Jersey. The next category we're going to look at is transportation and mobility. Do the streets and sidewalks connect? Are routes to key destinations accessible to people of all abilities? Is there a rideshare program for senior residents Do you have public transportation options? If you do, is there seating, shade, and lighting at transit stops? Are street traffic crossings adequately timed to accommodate pedestrians of all abilities? How is parking oriented and does it provide for a safe environment? So here is an example of a question on the assessment worksheet. Does your municipality's zoning regulations require higher density within walking distance to a train station? So to get this answer, you need to look at your zoning code, provide a link and copy to the relevant section of the code with the submission. And it also requires a narrative to describe the type of residential development permitted within a quarter mile of a train station. So for towns that have done the Sustainable Jersey Transit-Oriented Development Action, you may be able to answer yes to this question because it involves increasing housing density within a quarter mile radius of a transit facility. So for this question, if you were this community that did increase density within a half mile of the transit facility, you would select yes and provide links to the zoning code along with providing a statement describing the type and density of residential development within a quarter mile zone. You can go to the Sustainable Jersey website and filter for towns that have received points for the TOD action, which is what the map is showing on this slide. This next assessment question asks about mobility and if your municipality has conducted a walkability or pedestrian study or audit. So this is another action in the Sustainable Jersey program. And for this question, I filtered the land use and transportation category for the bicycle and pedestrian audits action. And what you see on the right, those are the towns that have received points for that analysis. So for this question, I reviewed a walkability audit for a particular municipality and found no information in the audit about engagement of older residents, but the audit does provide recommendations for improved infrastructure to help with accessibility to two public housing complexes for older residents. So you might find that your community has already done some of these things already, and maybe you didn't know about it or participate. And this could be a chance to further improve the study, or to involve people that maybe weren't engaged in the process previously. You could use this as an opportunity to revisit a previous study or plan to incorporate people of all ages and all abilities in the community. And there's a column in the worksheet to explain the details of the assessment response. So you could use that space to describe things that have been done, that things that to a degree have been done, but maybe they haven't been done with consideration of impacts on older adults. So next, we're going to look at the public spaces and amenities questions. This includes community centers, joint use facilities, parks, trails, open spaces, the connectivity and walkability between those uses. It also considers green infrastructure in the built environment and if the town is providing accessible places to recreate while also managing stormwater runoff. So how important are amenities? A recent study by the New Jersey Department of Human Services looked directly into social isolation and found that there's an estimated 2.3 million or 26% of New Jersey residents are estimated to be lonely. So providing opportunities to interact with fellow neighbors can be crucial for the health outcomes of all residents, not just older adults. Having good amenities can promote intergenerational communication and interaction, which can also be crucial for health. And research has shown that having access to green space and public space in neighborhoods can be extremely beneficial to the mental and physical health of all community members. So, remaining socially engaged as we grow older is important for older adults. Another recent study has shown that loneliness and social isolation increase the risk of dementia by 50%, stroke by 32%, and mental health disorders and premature mortality by 26%. So one question we have on social engagement is there a community facility where seniors can socially engage at minimal expense? For this example, I researched senior community centers in Camden County and found that Collingswood does have a dedicated space where older adults can gather and attend programming. And it offers senior programming for $7 in the most expensive classes, and while most others are free to residents. One question in the land use assessment on open space asks if there's a dedicated set aside in the zoning code for open space or civic space. For one New Jersey community, I found a stipulation in the zoning code that requires no less than 15% of the total area of residential developments to be set aside for open space combining active and passive recreation uses. Now, what are active and passive recreation uses? You can think of active recreation uses as playgrounds, apartment courtyards. They can be a gazebo, a basketball court, or a dog park. A passive recreation use would be an open field, a walking or a bicycle path, or an outdoor learning area. So now, this is the second to last slide I will cover, and then we'll get to some Q&A. So for so for this one, I will talk about one of the questions on planning, which asks, does the master plan evaluate the demographics and vulnerabilities of the existing and projected older populations in terms of housing availability, cost of living, access to transportation and mobility options, access to healthy food options, vulnerability to hazards such as flood risk, and employment and engagement opportunities. Now, there are questions in the demographic evaluation tool that I spoke about earlier that specifically evaluate these topic areas, including healthy food options and vulnerability to hazards. In this example, I reviewed the demographics section of a master plan and found that they only indicate and recognize the existing population. This master plan did not evaluate the projected older population. So for this one, that question would be no, and you would include that information in the details on the right. Amenities and physical engagement. Before we get into this question, I want to highlight a statistic that was recently published by the CDC. In the time span of one generation from 1994 to 2018, the share of US adults ages 65 and older with obesity nearly doubled, increasing from 22% to 40%. And so this statistic brings about many questions as how we got here. So one question we have is there a community facility where seniors can experience physical activity at minimal expense? And now the response and details you see here are just one example of a community that does provide this amenity, but we know that there are others that don't have that luxury, and we need to better understand where those areas are so we can better plan for their future. Now, thank you very much for attending this first workshop in our series. Please register for the upcoming workshops and feel free to reach out to me at egarcia@njfuture.org with any questions you may have. And we look forward to the Q&A. And now I'll send it back to Alicia.
Okay, thank you, Evan, for that presentation. A lot of really good information. So we're going to take some time to answer any questions you may have. So I'd encourage anyone to please raise your hand, and I can call on your name to unmute yourself. And you can also put your question in the chat if you're feeling shy. We can get Tanya and Evan to answer your questions. Yes, John, we will be sharing this. Well, this presentation will be recorded, so it'll have all the slides that Evan's shared today.
Yes. So if we have no questions right now, I can continue to plug our upcoming workshops. So we're having one next Thursday where we'll be talking about age-friendly policy and community engagement. And then we'll have one the Thursday after that, the 8th, where we'll talk about an implementation plan, and then we'll have a number of experts that are going to come and talk to us about some implementation strategies. One, like I mentioned earlier, about ADUs, and then another on complete streets. So hopefully you can register for those as well, and we very much look forward to talking with y'all then also. So I encourage anyone, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, or you could type them in the chat. If not, that's okay too. Excuse me, Steve, I think you're muted.
It looks like Steve's trying to ask a question. I can unmute you if you. Let's see.
How about now, Evan?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Okay. I just want to say you did a good job. I'm just a member of the public, and I see this is on here. We got a lot of issues with zoning in New Jersey, and I think your presentation was very good and understandable. A lot of good information. I hope we can get it implemented.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Steve. And I'll just follow up on that and just say that this process, if folks are interested in sort of working on these community design for all ages components, they really pair well with other things that towns are often already doing, like potentially looking at their downtowns or redevelopment plans or their zoning or community plans, revitalization plans, and the master plan, of course, right? So, all of these things really can help to enhance and make those things more inclusive, and also provide a little more data and information, and maybe think about it from different perspectives as you're going through those things as well. So sometimes the Sustainable Jersey actions can seem like an extra or another additional thing, but a lot of these things are already happening in communities, and it's just a matter of making sure that you're including a couple pieces from this action in order to do some of these things.
That's right. Thank you for including that, Tanya.
One last call for questions anybody has. And I also posted the link for the registration to the next 2 workshops in the chat. Reposted it.
Did you want to describe anything about the technical assistance application? Well, we have
I could go back. So the technical assistance application will be providing the options, 3 options. One, developing an age-friendly community design policy. 2, working with community engagement and survey or focus groups. And then the third would be to work on land use assessment. And each of these program options are going to include completed demographic data profile, which your municipality can use to incorporate in master plan or amendment or a reexamination report. And those and that application for that deadline is February 9th. So if you have any questions related to that, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Tanya, and we'd be, very excited and happy to work with towns that are interested. Is there anything else I was missing there, Tanya?
No, I think that was great. Just that there is an application link, and just to note that it is not a financial award, it is purely a technical assistance award. So we would be working alongside a community to work through these things with them and pick up some of the work components of that.
Right.
So thank everyone for coming and your interest in this action and creating, more livable places around the state for people of all ages.
That's right. So like Alicia said earlier, we've been recording this workshop, and we will be posting them, or we will have them posted on the Sustainable Jersey website as a reference for green teams to work on this action. So I think if we don't have any further questions, we can go ahead and end it a little early. But we very much appreciate you all taking time out of your day to hear about this and to join our conversation. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you in our upcoming workshops.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, everyone.